Welcome to The Shift Show with Adriana Bucci. Join me every week to learn all about narcissistic abuse recovery, healing from physical and emotional pain after the abuse, and everything else to do with toxic people and how they affect your physical, emotional, and mental health. And no, you are not the crazy one. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let's get right to it. Hey, and welcome back to The Shift Show. Today we have another Dear Adriana column episode, and our listener, Paulina, submitted the following question. I am struggling to fully see to which extent I was the problem. Anxious attachment style and didn't back then understand my triggers and how to handle them, and to which extent I was mentally abused, mistreated by my ex. I still sometimes push myself down over this and think that I am the problem. How do I get some clarity over this and forgive myself for staying too long? So much things that could have been different if only I knew back then what my body was trying to tell me. So let's unpack this. When you are with a narcissist, all right, so I'm not really going to get into the attachment style stuff because I'm not an expert in that by any means, but narcissists can definitely seek out people who do not have a secure attachment style because it's easier to manipulate. So if you're an anxious person by nature, you've got a lot of repressed fear, right? The anxiety stuff, all of that. And the thing to understand with narcissists is they will use guilt, shame, and fear as the main emotions to abuse somebody and have control over them. Because when you're in a state of fear, right, that makes you easier to control. If you're constantly bamboozled in a state of anxiety, if you are worried about, what's going to happen in this relationship, you're constantly on edge, you're constantly in that fight or flight mode, and you're easier to control because it's a lot easier for you to kind of take what the narcissist is saying as the truth and nothing but the truth because you trust this person, right? They gain your trust in the love bombing stage. And that is, they will really give you that false sense of security in those early stages of the relationship to make you feel like, this is going to go somewhere. This is going to be a forever kind of relationship and things are going to be great. And when the devaluation discard stages start to happen, all you wish for is for those good times to come back from the love bombing stage because you know that this person is capable of treating you amazingly and with respect and all that stuff. But what's very important to understand is when they are treating you amazingly, it is literally all love bombing. This is not who this person really is. It's a facade. It is a fake person, and they have to love bomb you in order to make sure that the cycle of abuse continues over and over and over again. So this is the first thing that I want to say about, your question about how do I forgive myself for staying too long. Basically, the love bombing is what caused you to sort of be in a trauma bond with this person where, maybe logically something's not right, but emotionally things are completely different and it's a totally different story. And that goes to the point of you didn't do anything wrong. So there's really nothing to forgive yourself for. It's more so grieving the amount of time that was lost while you were in this dynamic. And yes, your body was totally trying to tell you something. Your nervous system was absolutely reacting, but because of all the love bombing that was happening and all the gaslighting, all the manipulation and the abuse and all that from your ex, it literally is what kind of causes you to believe that you're the problem and that, you did something wrong here when it's really all by design through the narcissistic abuse. So to kind of go back to the first point of what you said, where you said that I'm struggling to fully see to which extent I was the problem. Now, this is what narcissistic abuse does. It makes you blame yourself, right? This is just the hallmarks of somebody who has been through narcissistic abuse. You blame yourself for it. You try to figure out where you went wrong, what extent you were the problem. But when it's a situation of abuse, you are not the problem. The abuser is the problem. You did not do anything specifically to cause this person to abuse you. Abusers abuse because they choose to be abusive. Okay? So this is the first thing that you need to understand. You were never the issue. The issue is that you're a decent, empathetic person who has a good heart and cares about other people. And this is exactly the type of person that a narcissist will target. This does not mean that there is something wrong with you. The world could absolutely use a lot more people with empathy. Let's be realistic here. But it's really where you're directing that empathy. So you were directing that empathy towards your narcissistic ex, and that is very apparent in the fact that you're blaming yourself, pushing yourself down over everything and thinking that you're the problem because he told you that you're the problem, right? This person literally told you that you're the issue. You're the one who caused everything to go to shit, and it's your fault that this person abused you. So you really have to stop blaming yourself, which I know is way easier said than done. But hopefully this has planted the seeds, and it's really going to be like working through repressed emotions. And I know that sounds scary, but emotions are literally everything, and narcissists prey on your emotions to keep you in a disempowered state where you're bamboozled, you're confused, you're blaming yourself for everything. You don't know what's up or down. You just want things to go back to the love bombing phase. You just want to, you're beating yourself up, all the things, which completely normal after experiencing narcissistic abuse. And, it's just really like you're taking too much responsibility for this, right? Like you say that back then you didn't understand your triggers and how to handle them. Still, why is this person triggering you? Why do they think it's okay to abuse you? That's the problem, that they think it's okay to put you through this shit for their own gratification, right? Because that's what narcissists want. They only want supply from their targets. What is supply? This is your emotional reaction, your time, your energy, your attention, you trying to fix the relationship and make things better and exerting your energy on this person's narrative. That is what narcissistic abuse is all about. And this is not going to make sense to you when you are a normal person who has empathy. Because the thing that we tend to do as survivors of narcissistic abuse, and when we've got empathy, we tend to project that empathy onto our abusers. And we tend to assume that everybody kind of thinks the way that we think. And the way that we think is that we would never put somebody through this on purpose. But that's why you have to recognize that not everybody thinks like you. Narcissists do not think this way. Their literal goal is to get supply from their targets. Their literal goal is to destroy your life because that is how they get their entertainment. This is how they get their jollies. It is sick. It is disgusting. It makes absolutely no sense. And they induce the emotions of guilt, shame, and fear within their targets. Because anybody who is in these emotional states is easier to control, right? And this also extends to confusion and a sense of obligation. When you are confused, and you are questioning, where did I go wrong? What's wrong with me that I allowed this to happen? That is a sign that you're being manipulated, okay? So you are not the problem. You were never the problem. Just because you have anxious attachment style, it doesn't mean that you're the issue and that you deserved this to happen and it's because you didn't understand your triggers and how to handle them that this all happened to you. No. This happened because your ex made the choice to treat you like shit and to narcissistically abuse you. They don't do this in a blacked out trance state where they have no idea what they're doing. They are fully conscious of what they're doing because they know how to behave, depending on who their audience is, right? Behind closed doors with you, I'm sure this person was a completely different monster. And, went out with friends or other people, they were probably the best person ever. And that is by design because then nobody's going to believe you if you were to ever say something about this person because that's just how they operate. And guess what? This takes a great deal of awareness. You have to be hyper aware of your surroundings and of who your audience is in order to be a narcissistic abuser. So you are absolutely mentally abused and mistreated by your ex, like big time. And the fact that you are continuing to blame yourself, it just really means there's some healing to be done. This is not abnormal. There is nothing wrong with you. You are completely like a normal person and you're having a normal human reaction to the abuse that you went through. And if you're putting yourself down over this, it's really your inner critic talking, and it's really the conditioning from the abuse, because this person blamed you for everything. This person said that like you're the issue and you're the problem, etc., etc. So the best thing for you to do is to process that repressed shame, right? That repressed guilt, that repressed fear, whatever emotion is there. It could be a combination of emotions. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. And I will give you and whoever is listening an exercise for free, a coaching exercise, journaling, pen, paper, 20-minute timer, vomit all of your thoughts onto the paper. So whatever your inner critic is telling you, whatever your inner critic is saying about how you're the problem, journal it out, right? You can literally write out, I am such an idiot. Why did I do this? What's wrong with me? Write that out. After 20 minutes, you're going to destroy the paper, because that gives your brain a subconscious message of this no longer serves me. And that's going to be really kind of your step one on how to start healing from this. So I would encourage you to do that on a daily basis if you have the time for it. 20 minutes, pen, paper, vomit all the words onto the paper, destroy the paper, and see what happens. You would be surprised at how much clarity you will gain from doing this for a couple of weeks, and keep going beyond the couple of weeks. And that's going to be how you're going to forgive yourself, because it really is going to start with gaining the clarity to recognize that you did nothing wrong. You went into this relationship with the best of intentions, with the idea that this was going to go somewhere and that you were putting in the same amount of work as this person was putting in order for the relationship to be successful and have a future. But this person chose to be abusive, and you've done absolutely nothing wrong. And you stayed for such a long time because of that cycle of abuse. Love bomb, devalue, discard. Love bombing is everything that you want to hear. Love bombing is what we tend to ruminate on when we are remembering all the good times with this person. Love bombing is all fake. But we don't know that when we're going through it. We think it's real. We think this is what this person is capable of. This is what we can get back to. If only I can be better or meet this person's needs better. But as I'm sure you've noticed, nothing is ever good enough for the narcissist. So doing this journaling is really going to help you get in touch with your body, because here at the end you say, so many things could have been different if I only knew back then what my body was trying to tell me. And here's the thing, we can't change the past, but we can learn from the past so that we can get through the present and the future and prevent this type of abuse from happening in the future. And there's narcissists everywhere. And the more that you become aware of yourself, your nervous system reactions, your emotions, what your intuition is saying to you. And again, this is something that a podcast episode is not really going to fully solve for you, but I'm giving you the steps. And, if you want to work through this further, I will also include the link, and this goes for whoever is listening. I'll include the link on how to work with me in the podcast description. So you're more than welcome to use any of those options if you would like support on your healing journey, because it is not a overnight process, and sometimes support is very helpful, but totally up to you either way, just throwing it out there. And by doing this inner work and starting to at least journal and show up for yourself and just notice in whatever given moment, this is how I'm feeling, and just acknowledging it to yourself and validating it for yourself without needing anybody else's approval for how you feel. Because at the end of the day, how you feel is absolutely nobody's business. And it is absolutely not the narcissist's business, but they want to know how you feel because then they get supply from you that way. So the more that you pour that energy into yourself and your healing journey, processing those emotions, doing the emotional work, the more you're going to be able to recognize what your body is telling you. You're going to be able to recognize those red flags in your gut as soon as they come up, and you're not going to ignore them as we tend to do, right? And so, and here's the thing, like, the narcissists are everywhere. There will be times that we're going to get fooled, but it does not mean that you're a total failure. You're going to be able to catch it so much faster than you otherwise would have, because the more you push those emotions down, the more that you ignore how you feel, the more that you don't bother doing the inner work or trying to heal from this, the more susceptible you are to narcissistic abuse. So just start one baby step at a time. And I would also encourage, like, another journal prompt for you, Paulina, is to kind of journal about, like, the fact that you're beating yourself up on how things could have been different if only you listened to what your body was trying to tell you, or, you listened to what your intuition was saying, or you didn't ignore those red flags, or whatever the case may be. Journal about that, because that's going to help you to get more connected with your body, more connected with your nervous system, so that you can listen to those messages, because you get those messages, but it's about listening to them and honoring them and trusting them. And doing that inner work is going to help you to get there. So yeah, I am rambling at this point, but I do hope this was helpful. Thank you for listening. And if you would like to submit a question for this podcast, you are more than welcome to do so. The link to submit a form is also included in the description of this podcast episode. I will wrap this one up here, and I will see you next time. I look forward to having probably 2 episodes per week for the foreseeable near future, because I do have so many responses to this and I want to get through them all. And I know I'm going to get more and more responses. So, hey, we've just got a jam-packed podcast, and I just am super excited to share this knowledge with the people who submit the questions, and whoever is listening who could be going through something very similar, who needed to hear this. So yeah, feel free to submit anything if you'd like to. The links are all there. You'll get the link for submitting a form and the link for other ways to work with me if you are interested. Zero pressure at all, just throwing it out there because it does exist. And yeah, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram on any feedback on these episodes, and feel free to submit a question if you want to have your question answered. I'm going to end this here. I'm going to stop rambling, and I will see you or hear you, or you'll hear me in the next episode, probably in a couple of days. See you then. Bye.